Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and I've got your latest Manchester United news for you as Manchester United make a late inquiry for Karim Benzema. Could it happen? Probably not, but the story's interesting. Also, a fascinating story coming out from James Ducker in The Telegraph, talking about Manchester United, talking about stuff like this. Omar Berrada and the new sporting director will be the ones to decide the future of Erik ten Hag. Meanwhile, Sir David Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc will be INEOS representatives on the board who will offer any counsel when needed. This is massive news. We're going to be talking about that as well. Absolutely massive in relation to the future of Ten Hag, the next director of football, and two very strong people to have on your board. So, yeah, potentially good news there as well. We'll also be talking about another potential target I don't know anything about. He plays for Sporting Lisbon. A few people have mentioned that. What was Sir David Brailsford doing at Old Trafford, at Carrington yesterday? He was giving a speech on standards and the importance of those standards in achieving performance. Now, there might have been one awkward person sat in that room, Marcus Rashford, having just been having his meeting yesterday morning. But important that these things are starting to happen at what's going to be a crucial period for Manchester United. And I think one of the things that has to be said before we talk about the Benzema story and the other story as well, one of the things that has to be said here is that INEOS will take it into account when they're having chats with players and then they go and lose against Wolves. You know, people say Ten Hag is on trial for his job, and if he loses more games, he'll lose his job. The players are on trial as well. You can't be sat having this chat with Sir David Brailsford and then go and put a shit performance in on a Thursday. Like, they're on trial as well. Yes, Ten Hag may lose his job if we lose more games, but players are on trial as well. And it'll be very interesting to see how it is. Tom says, Mark, have my babies. Don't know how that works, Tom, but thank you for your support. I tell you what, it's nice to see a little bit of support after the show this morning. Look, we're a democracy on here. It's a funny old thing being the head of a Marcus Rashford hate campaign, but also being on his payroll. Yeah, figure that one out. I don't quite know how that works. I would call it balanced reporting, but you know, it's crazy. But read the comments from the show this morning. I've never seen such a barrage of anti-Goldbridgeism, but I'm thick-skinned enough to take it. I've had worse than that, and at least you are expressing your opinions. I read those opinions this morning. Most of them don't agree with me. I'm not hitting the delete button because you're doing exactly what you should do. You're forging your opinion in a passionate way, and I'm not here to dictate your opinion. If I'm in the minority, I'm in the minority. Anyway, Simon Pugh, welcome to the Members Club, you absolute legend. Thanks for getting your badge in. We're going to start off with this story that's coming out from L'Equipe. I want to get into that Berrada story because I think it's fascinating, some of the stuff that's coming out from James Ducker in The Telegraph just in the last few minutes about Berrada and what he's going to do. But the big story coming out in relation to the transfer window is that Manchester United have held exploratory test the water talks to bring Benzema to Manchester United before Thursday. Now, Chelsea been mentioned as well. What's this all about? It's in a French outlet. It's called L'Equipe or however you pronounce it. Obviously, Benzema is not happy in Saudi Arabia, and Manchester United and Chelsea have apparently held test the water talks late on in the window. Well, look, what I will say is this has been a shit week for Manchester United. It's been a shit week for Manchester United fans. And if I was in charge of United and there was a bit of money around, I probably would try and do something like Benzema to just give the whole place a lift. I probably would try and do it. That doesn't mean we are trying to do it, and that doesn't mean we've got the money to do it, and that's the big thing. But with what's been going on, and look, I'll put my hands up and say, second time Rashford's done this, who's to say he won't do it in a month? And then you haven't got Rashford anymore because he's done it 3 times and you have to suspend him for a longer period of time. Bringing in a striker might not be a bad idea, but and it would be perfect timing to give the club a bit of a boost. But I think you've just got to follow the lead of what we've been told is that United haven't got any money and they're not expecting to do anything. Having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if we did do something in the next 48 hours, even though it seems unlikely, because if I am INEOS, I'm probably thinking, you know, we're in here, we're doing positive things, but there's a lot of negative things going on. Let's make people feel good. Team INEOS. And they might do that. They might do that. We'll have to just wait and see. The story in relation to Benzema specifically goes on to say that United have held test the water talks with Benzema's representatives in the last few hours. But the PIF, who are basically running the Saudi Arabian league, will block this. They will stop this. Letting Jordan Henderson's go is fine. You know, that's absolutely fine. But Benzema going would be damaging to that league, and they're very, very opposed to that happening. So, yeah, the chances are slim. But, you know, we bring you the news. That's the story on it. I'd love to, you know, I would love to see Benzema at Manchester United for the next few months. I don't think anybody wouldn't like to see that. I think it would be fantastic to have a player of that experience and quality who knows Casemiro, who knows Varane, straight down the spine, helping Rasmus. It would be great. It's potentially pie in the sky, but let's monitor it. Brandon, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. And then the big story for me, really, that came out in the last few minutes is this. This is coming out from Telegraph, James Ducker. Omar Berrada and the new sporting director will be the ones to decide the future of Erik ten Hag. Meanwhile, Sir David Brailsford and Blanc will be on the representatives board. Now, this is really interesting because, of course, we're not too sure when Omar Berrada is going to come in. And it actually does go on to say that INEOS want to appoint Omar Berrada as quickly as possible, so he would have a big input into the next sporting director and who that would be. So Manchester United want to get this done very, very quickly, because it then goes on to say that Manchester United want to appoint a new sporting director in the next few weeks. So how do you unpick that bit? Let's talk about that. So basically, Berrada and his new director of football will decide the future of Ten Hag. We'll talk about that in a moment. Manchester United want Berrada in position ASAP because they want to appoint the new sporting director in the next few weeks. So to get to the point of deciding Ten Hag's future, you've first of all got to appoint the director of football. But to do that, you've got to get Berrada in. So it's there's a chain of events there, quite simply. We need this sporting director of football in last month. This needs to be happening now. Absolutely. Richard Thatcher, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Get your badge in the chat. Savage says it's great news. I think it is, but we need to move quickly. We need this director of football in now. John Murtough was part of the conversations with Rashford yesterday. John Murtough is still very much our director of football. We need a change of direction. We need a new director of football. And the most important reason for that is that if you are a sporting director of Brighton or Newcastle, which is the one we want, Dan Ashworth, or Liverpool or whoever, you are working on your summer now. You're working on your summer now. And it's not just about where your scouts are and what players you want to bring in. It's also what players you're going to move out. You are working on your summer. You are talking to agents of players that you've currently got and saying it might be an idea that you start talking to other clubs. You're talking to agents of players that aren't at your club and you're saying, you know what, we might be interested in you. And I use this a lot, and it happened. Akanji, Ranić, Manchester United, February. To his agent, we want you. We just need to know whether the new manager wants you. Are you interested in coming to Manchester United? Yes, I am. And Akanji was basically waiting to see what United did with the manager, and Ten Hag said no. So this is how important it is. Some people, I remember when we appointed Ten Hag, and I was really panicking because I was like, he's not starting the job until the middle of May. He's got no idea what he wants. It's too late. We've not had a really well-prepared summer in a long, long time, and we need to be prepared for this. So, yeah, let's get ready for it. Let's get that director of football in. Love you, Mark. Hope everyone can just be patient, says Young Sandman. Thank you very much. And Akash has given us a super chat. He says, I want to see Rashford stay and fight for his career. Benzema wages would cripple us financially. We need to fast-track Ashworth and sporting director. Great points, Akash. Great points. So, look, my only concern with this is, and it's not really a major concern because it's better than nothing. It's better than being in the situation we were a year ago where we haven't even done a deal with INEOS and we haven't even got a new CEO coming in. We're on the journey to, restructure, but time is still of the essence. And we only announced a gym on Christmas Eve. Berrada was only announced a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half ago, actually. We need that director of football in, but it is time specific. I mean, Dan Ashworth is at Newcastle. Can he be working at Man United in the next 2 or 3 weeks? It seems very far-fetched when he's currently at Newcastle. Paul Mitchell could be working tomorrow. He's free. So how are we going to move this along quickly? That is going to be the question, because then that leads to what we were talking about before. And look, this will be something that people, and just on the CEO, by the way, just on the director of football, these are the names that are being mentioned in the Telegraph. Dan Ashworth, as we know, Julian Ward, Dougie Freedman, and Paul Mitchell are all names that Manchester United have considered for the sporting director role. So look, you can get Paul Mitchell tomorrow, and I think Paul Mitchell's a very good name. I'm a bit worried about Dougie Freedman, to be honest. I mean, I don't think Crystal Palace to Manchester United, I don't think he can be the sporting director. Maybe he can work under the director of football, but not as the sporting director. Paul Mitchell, I think, is a good choice, and he's ready to go. Dan Ashworth is clearly the number one choice, and it's problematic, as we've said before. So we'll have to wait and see how that comes about. But this is of interest. This is the one we're really interested in, isn't it? Which is Berrada and his new director of football will decide the future of Erik ten Hag. And I don't like this sort of conversation. And I'm going to do the poll here again. I like to gauge. It's probably the most popular poll we do, but it's one that does change by the day, and it's one I'm always very interested in because, you know, at the end of the day, I respect you. I listen to you, and you're the best poll in the world. I can literally find out from thousands of people an opinion on something by the click of a button, and I appreciate it. So thanks everyone who gets involved. Not everyone can do that. You know, most people are sat there at their desk and thinking, well, I can guess what it's going to be, but, you know, what are your thoughts on Ten Hag at the moment? What do I think about this? Berrada and the sporting director will be the ones to decide the future of Erik ten Hag. Well, first of all, Slow Sports News. Let him speak, Simon. You know, it's very obvious that this will happen. Hello, CEO and director of football will decide the future of their manager. What, like they do at Liverpool? Like they do at Man City? Like they do at Arsenal? This is not breaking news. This is what a CEO and a director of football does. I hate to break it to you, but Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward would have sacked Mourinho and Rangnick and Ollie. That's what the CEO does. Obviously, they'll have to get it ratified by Sir Jim Radcliffe and also the Glazers, but they run the football club. So this, as a headline, sounds like Ten Hag's getting the sack. I don't like that because I think it heaps pressure onto Ten Hag, but he probably says, pile it on at this stage. What you got? What you got? Ten Hag's probably there ripping his shirt off like Bruce Willis. I'm in the Die Hard remake this Christmas. Yes, the Nakatomi Tower. Ten Hag's back. Yeah, he probably does feel a little bit like Bruce Willis. Pile it on. Pile on the pressure. I can take it. Because he is under pressure, and you're under pressure at Manchester United all the time. But I think that those words are very inflammatory. Omar Berrada and the new sporting director will be the ones to decide the future of Erik ten Hag. But they'll decide his future if he's here in 3 years. They'll decide his future in the summer. They'll decide his future, in 5 years' time. They're always going to decide his future. It's like working in a bank and your bank manager says, I'm going to decide your future. Of course you fucking are. No shit, Sherlock. You're my boss. See you later. I'm off for lunch. I'm going to get a meal deal. And I think that's just, it is a bit inflammatory because people will get excited going, Omar for the win. Yeah, we're going to get rid of Ten Hag. And maybe we are going to get rid of Ten Hag in the summer, but maybe we're not. He will decide his future because that's his job. His job is to decide the future of the Manchester United manager. So I'm not too stressed about that. I think we all know what this next few games and months is going to be. It's a crap start to the season. I think Ten Hag had money in the bank from the first season. It was remarkable. He overachieved. We're underachieving now. He's probably sort of in the middle. And it's which way you're going to go next. This next 4 months, hopefully we can get back. If we don't, then he could get sacked. And I think we're all aware of that. I still say this passionately. I don't want to see a manager sacked. I want to see INEOS and Manchester United doing things differently compared to the last 10 years. But I've always acknowledged the fact that when you bring a new director of football in or a new CEO in and a new footballing owner in Sir Jim Radcliffe, then the manager is always going to be like a Big Mac with surrounded by a pack of vultures. They're eyeing him up. But, what's that Big Mac going to do to stop himself getting eaten? And that's the whole thing. That's what's going to be really important. I don't think, what I'm trying to say is I don't think you can look at that and go, oh, he's going to lose his job. I think you look at the fixture list and you go, that's where it will be decided, of course. But on from that, and this is my favourite bit. It's very niche, but this is my favourite bit. Man United insiders haven't ruled out that the scouting and recruitment department's being gutted and redrawn, with one source saying, I don't think there are any sacred cows in this. Now, I don't know what a sacred cow is. Answers on a postcard. I'm going to Google it. What is a sacred cow? Because I thought a sacred cow was something that you sacrificed. So does that mean that nobody will be got rid of? Sacred cow is an idea, custom, or institution held to be above criticism. Okay. So therefore, I'll translate this for you. Insiders have said, I don't think that anybody is above criticism. Basically, nobody's safe. That would have been a lot better, wouldn't it? I don't think anybody's safe would have been a better interpretation. But this is really important. This is really important. I've almost been craving this. I don't know about you. And if you want to go back and talk about Rashford, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. There was a lot of them after the morning show. But I was getting dragged down with it. I was getting, it was affecting my mental health. I was just like, I was getting so tired of it. Every show, I want to move forward. I want Manchester United to move forward. I even put it in the comment section on the show this morning. I'm confused because INEOS have had a big say in what's happening with Rashford. And are we not meant to be... And everyone's telling me to get behind INEOS and let's see what happens. And I think that, this sort of thing drags me back to where I want to be. I want to see major changes at Manchester United. And, when you talk about the scouting and the recruitment department, gutted and redrawn sounds absolutely vile. I don't know why we're using those words. But what it means is that, we know this with the coaching department as well. Ten Hag has brought very few of his coaches in. Rangnick only brought, I think, 2 with him. So predominantly that coaching department is either Ollie recruits or are they legacy from before that? I've said before, if a journalist is twiddling their thumbs for a decent article that most Man United fans would like to read, I would love to read an article that is well researched on all the coaches that Manchester United have and how long they've been there and who brought them in. I mean, because I don't know. We don't know. It's always, I think that people will talk about all sorts of things about the way we train. But there are so many coaches that work at Carrington. And who are they? How long have they been there? And these are things that I think you've got to look at across the club, especially in recruitment, especially in scouting, because one thing that Brighton are elite at is modern scouting and recruitment. And if United have got people that have been there for a long time, and what's their track record? What players have you discovered? If I was in charge of that, I'd be saying, what has this scout actually done? What players have they actually recommended and what players have actually come to the club? And I'd love to do that because I'd say, well, hold on a minute. He recommended Enzo Fernandez and we passed on it. He recommended Vardiel and we passed on it. Oh, he's the one who said, let's go and get, Jadon Sancho. So it's like, I'd love to know, we've got to scrutinise everybody. That's what the whole point of a strategic review is. And that's why when Sir David Brailsford was at Carrington yesterday talking to the first team squad about performance and the importance of, elite performance, that is something that we've got to look at throughout the football club because everything needs to be scrutinised. Nobody's untouchable. Basically, that's what it means, says Mario. And that's why when we go back to what we were talking about this morning, I think people are just still very angry. I don't think they're allowing themselves to actually listen to the possibility that the way that the club have dealt with the Rashford situation might actually be stronger than you think. look, the only thing I'm going to mention that in a minute, but because there's a lot to talk about here that I think is more positive. Rashford treatment confirms that player power is going nowhere, even with INEOS. The only point in favour of Ten Hag goes away with that. Eric Ten Hag out before he extends Onana and Anthony's contracts, says Sherlock Holmes. Review will show INEOS how hard Eric Ten Hag job is, says Abdul. Ten Hag in, says Ant. Hi Mark, I've started YouTube and it's my dream to be like you. Any chance of us getting Benzema? Also, I would love a chat or come on a call-in show, says We Are United. Good luck with it, mate. Do we know how Sir Jim is paying for this deal yet, says Benson's? And where do you stand with the youth versus senior players and lack of playing time to those we as fans think deserve a chance? Well, Mainoo's been given a lot of minutes. Garnacho's been given a lot of minutes. I like the Ten Hag approach. I know people like negativity, but I like the Ten Hag approach that he detailed to us last season when things were going well. I'm not going to give a young player minutes because they're a young player. I'll give a young player minutes because they're as good as or better than what I've got in the first team. And I like that approach. You know, we've seen in recent years people being given minutes from the youth team and then they're sold in the summer because they weren't ever really good enough. I like the idea of giving young players minutes if they're good enough, because what it does to that youth setup is it says, I ain't never going to get there unless I'm good enough. And it gives them a bigger mountain to climb. And we've seen it with Mainoo and we've seen it with Garnacho. They're not there just to make up the numbers. They're there because they're good enough. And I think that's really, I like the way he's dealing with the youth. I know some people don't, but I do. Love you, Mark. Hope, yeah, I've done that one from Young Sandman. And Eric Ten Hag needs to be empowered to stamp out Player FC. The sacred cow line is the reason why the Glazers got INEOS in to sign the no criticism disclosure, says Akash Paul. And thank you very much to Ant for that. Yeah, look, I think player power is something that people are still very, very concerned about. I read about it this morning in the comments. I read your comments. I don't reply to them because there's so many, but I do read the comments. So, you know, if you think I don't, I do. I always have. And look, player power is a massive concern. It was if you go back and watch the video from this morning and you read the comments, player power is the major thing. And people will say you're being a hypocrite. I'm not being a hypocrite. I don't like player power. And I think player power at that football club is very, very real. But what I am doing here is trying to give this new football ownership, INEOS, the benefit of the doubt, which is what they want. Now, maybe this whole Rashford saga is led by player power, and it won't take long to figure it out. Or maybe it's not player power, and it's actually a new ownership of the footballing side stamping down their authority. We will find out. It's a bit like me on Friday saying, you know, I'm not having this Rashford pile on. He was out on Wednesday night, and then the evidence comes out that he was out on Thursday night. It doesn't mean I'm right to say I'm happy with what the club have done for now, because I might get proven very, very wrong, and you might be able to say I told you so. But at this moment in time, we don't know which way this is going to go. Is this player power still here at the football club, or is it dying? And we will find out over the coming weeks, because we'll see what happens with performance. We'll see what happens with attitude. Of course we will. But one thing to bear in mind, Marcus Rashford's probably just had the biggest fine in Premier League history. If that's a 2-week fine, that's closing in on 700k. Did Ronaldo get a 2-week fine or did he get a 1-week fine? I think everyone wants to find the negative, but that's pretty big. You know, if that's got to be one of the biggest fines a player's ever been given in Premier League history. And, as I said, I think Ten Hag is seeing Newport as a suspension. I think he sees the Newport game as a suspension because he said, I don't want you there. So, you know, take that into account, whether you want to or not, whether you think it will. I don't think he'll start against Wolves either. I think he'll be on the bench at best. So, look, That's what I think about it. I might be completely wrong. I've been wrong in the past, but it's not about having a different opinion. It's about this new footballing structure and giving it the benefit of the doubt because it's meant to be new. And let's see what happens. And if in the summer we're back where we were, I will be the first to say INEOS are just Glazer puppets brought in to protect and shield them with no real change. But we won't know that until we start to see it. And I believe that there are signs of positivity with the approach to Omar Berrada and some of the director of football stuff that we're trying to look at as well. I just hope it's not just you know, wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt, and actually something happens with it. What I will say is, though, and I'm very strong on this, and, you know, if you want me to get heated about it, turn up your radiators, because Goldbridge is going to get heated. I absolutely will not be quiet and will keep mentioning it the same way we mentioned Ronaldo and Sancho, De Gea, and all the other things that left a bit of a sour taste in our mouth in the way certain things were dealt with. If Marcus Rashford doesn't put out an apology, I think that's a terrible move. I think it's an absolutely terrible move. And the people who are around him and the player himself has to. And I think it's coming. I don't think we need to start demanding it yet, because I think it's coming. I'll be convinced. I'll be stunned if it doesn't happen. But absolutely has to be some sort of video or post or something apologising for his conduct, because I don't actually care. You know, Ten Hag's had the conversation with him, the director of football, Sir David Brailsford, whoever was in that room. They've had his explanation. We, as the paying customer and lover of this football club, we haven't had our apology. And this deserves an apology. And everybody who's worn that shirt, you know, some people have died playing for this football club. They deserve that apology, because when you play for Manchester United, it's more than a football club, and you can't disrespect it like that. And that just needs to happen. That has to happen. Has to happen. Has to be an apology. Cristiano Ronaldo did it when he stormed down the tunnel. We never got the public apology from Sancho, of course, but he should have done that. But the thing about Sancho, I'll say, is I don't really feel like I needed a public apology. As a fan, I didn't think I needed a public apology because of the way he put a tweet out. That was aimed at the coaching staff. It wasn't aimed at us. But when you don't turn up for training because you're out on the piss, you're letting your own standards down. Of course you are. But look, Seb loves Rashford. Not quite his favourite. He prefers Harry Maguire. But Seb loves Rashford. Maguire and Rashford are his favourite players. And, you know, he doesn't know enough about football yet, obviously. But for whatever reason, Marcus Rashford is a player that people look up to. And he's got to think about that. You know, a few years ago, he was on top of the world. You know, books coming out, and they said books coming out his arse. Books coming out, everything like that, you know, really, really popular. And you don't build an audience like that and then underappreciate it. So there has to be an apology, and I think there will be. And then once that's out the way, hopefully he can start scoring goals and we can move on. But obviously it's going to be a watching brief. Of course it will. But don't forget, it probably is one of the most significant fines a player's ever had in Premier League history. There we go. It'll come, Mark. He needs time to write his essay, says Julian. I'm absolutely convinced it will come. If it didn't come, I wouldn't be quiet about it, and I don't think many other people would be, because how can you not apologise to the fans for that? It has to come, and it will come. The INEOS restart is irrelevant to this issue, Mark, says John. Why is it irrelevant to this issue, John? Because surely it's very relevant, because they are the footballing owners of the football club, and we are meant to be under a different guidance. Some people said, well, the way that Ronaldo and Sancho was treated is different to the way Rashford's been treated. But INEOS weren't here then. The different way of doing things, surely. If we were to sell Rashford, couldn't Garnacho be his replacement? That would allow us to spend elsewhere. Still don't think it's time to go yet, says Sotus. Yeah, I mean, that's a conversation for another time, Sotus. I saw somebody on Twitter last night actually say, pragmatically, they said, look, hypothetically, if we did sell Rashford in the summer, £80 million profit, and you don't need to spend it on a replacement. You can spend it somewhere else. And I thought, yeah, you might not be wrong, because if you keep Ahmad and you've got Garnacho and you've got Anthony, yeah, you've still got people like Mount. You might be onto something there. What's the lowest fee you would accept for Rashford, says Risa? 80. Vincent Lee, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Ronaldo wanted to be subbed in for the last 5 minutes and United made him apologise. Rashi drinks tequila and we start him, says Mikel. Yeah, but we don't know that. We don't know that, Mikel. This is what I mean. Have a watching brief on it. See what happens. He might not even be picked He might not even go with the squad for Wolves. He might be on the bench for the squad of Wolves. Akash says Erik ten Hag needs to be empowered to stamp out Player FC. I've done that. Fantastic. What else? There was something else I want. Oi, yo. I'm talking to yo. Oi, yo. Who is Morten Højmund? That might be a question that you ask. He's a Sporting Lisbon midfielder, and he's also Danish. And apparently, I'm just mentioning the name, he has been linked to Manchester United. Exploratory talks for a summer transfer move. He's been at Sporting Lisbon only since the summer. He signed a 5-year contract for a fee of about 18 million euros, having been at Lecce before that. And apparently he's a player that Manchester United are looking into. So I've probably completely and utterly butchered his name. I'm sure Rasmus could tell us how to pronounce it. Morten Højmund. Keep an eye out for that name. I mean, look, it might be just a Danish connection, but apparently United are interested in him from Sporting Lisbon, and it's worth mentioning, I suppose, in that sense. There was something else I wanted to mention. Saying sorry does nothing. Show us by doing right, says Pizza. And it's consistency. You're absolutely correct. I feel like I'm playing darts. You're right. You're right. The best sort of follow-up I could say to that was, if you're taking Rashford, for example, when he scored the goal against Spurs, what was it he did? Keep talking or something like that? I was talking, wasn't it? You know, and then you're out on the piss in Belfast. I mean, no, you don't need to do anything. You just let him do it himself. But the whole point is, put your hand down, go and score 10 goals between now and the end of the season in the Premier League, and then you can go like that. Being a Man United player is not scoring 1 goal in 1 game. Being a Man United player is holding up a winner's medal and a trophy at the end of the season because you've been consistent across 50 games. That's the level. There's levels to this game, and that is what we want. That is what we want. It's Yulman, apparently, says Ol. And had enough of empty sorries, says X. Loved that celebration, says the Ferocious. And if we get in the top 4 this year, could you get a Ten Hag haircut, says Alan? No. You know, we'd have to be Champions League or winning the title for me to be thinking about something like that, I think. And we just tried to sign anyone who has a similar name to Haaland, says Mal. Maybe. I don't know much about him. Interestingly, we've been running the poll all show. Make sure you smash a like on the video, by the way. We're only 150 away from 1,000 likes, so let's do it while we're live. I do this a lot. Just fascinated by being able to run polls with thousands of people and getting a, you know, I just find it really empowering. Not like I'm a dictator, but I just think it's great to be able to go, what do you think about this? Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. And then you get 6,000 people voting and you go, well, that's 6,000 people. Wow, what a collection. Ten Hag in, 70%. Ten Hag out, 30%. A bit of a backdrop on that. We do this poll probably 2 times a week. And across the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, I'd say its lowest has probably been about 64% in, which would be 36% out. And its highest has probably been 85% in and 15% out. Statistically average, I'd say we're around 73% in and therefore 27% out. That's precarious. That is precarious. That can shift. And I think that's a fair reflection. I've got no issue with people being Ten Hag out. You've got every right to have your opinion. I'm obviously Ten Hag in, but what I will say is it's a precarious position, quite rightly, based on a very bad season and a lot of odd decisions on and off the pitch, of course. And I think that we've got virtually everybody's back from injury now. Some really difficult games. We're still in the cup. The story, the future will tell the story. And we just have to watch it play out because that's what's going to happen now. It's going to be about what we can achieve over the coming weeks because the results will dictate where that poll goes, up or down. And that will dictate the future of Ten Hag. Simple as that. INEOS are supposed to teach Rashford how to be a pro. And it makes you wonder how much Erik ten Hag had to deal with, says Mario Franco. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, it was meant to be a very quick show, but actually it's ended up being 35 minutes, which is, that's virtually an evening show. Talking of which, Premier League is back tonight, and I'll certainly be watching it over on That's Football. The big one I want to watch is Villa against Newcastle. Can't wait for that. So we will be live at 7 o'clock tonight on the United Stand, and you don't want to miss it because it's a preview for a Premier League game, which feels like a long time. So we'll have predicted 11, all the gossip on Wolves, and a big game for Manchester United preview, 7 o'clock tonight, unless something bigger breaks, of course, but that's what I'm looking forward to. Spending the evening with you, looking forward, and previewing a big game against Wolves at 7 o'clock tonight. It's the preview. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll speak to you all in a bit.